right now this is the third part, so we're going to put the switch in a while loop, because right now when we run it, we only get one choice to do something, and then the program's going to end. So what we'll do here is we'll put in a do. And down here we'll put in the while. And what do you want to call the Boolean that we're going to use to keep processing it? Maybe just process. So let's go and do that. So let's create a Boolean, and we'll call it process, or maybe process more. So we're going to continue doing this. Now, right now, we have a Boolean set to true. So this will happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put in the X, process more, equals false. So let's test that and see what happens. So we'll do we won't go through the case A, so we don't have to input all those numbers. We'll just do S, M, D, and X and see what happens. So we have S, and we entered an S, and nothing's happening. All right, so now we have a problem. So we fix it. So print get selection. So this means we are in do while process more switch break in here. So now what we need to do is we need to continue this getting the selection. So right now we're not doing it properly. So what you need to go back in here and put this back in. So we're getting the A, we're getting it in here. So what we'll do here is we'll put the while loop right here. And again, now I did that one on purpose, actually. Confession is good. And the reason why I did it on purpose is to show you how important, two things, how important it is to do one thing and test it. And then the second one is to show you how to fix things when they don't work. So basically, let's look at this here. So we want to continually print the menu. We want to keep getting a selection, and we probably don't need this anymore. So I'll just comment it out. Then we want to process the selection until we finally get an answer in here. So let's go in here and not worry about this process, because all we care about it is false, but we probably should do process more equals true. Again, just to be on the safe side. So let's go and run it, and we'll do the S, M, D, and F and see how that works. So S, so that works. M, D, and now if I did it right, when I hit X, we end, which we did. So that's good. So now what we would do is we would write a function that's going to process subtraction of two numbers, process multiplication of two numbers, and process the division. So now, why don't we had process add. Why don't we do this even further and break this down? We have process add, we have number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now I'm going to show you the advantage of passing by reference. So we're going to create a function. It's going to be a void, and it's going to be get two numbers. And we want an integer with an ampersand and another integer with an ampersand. And hopefully that'll turn green, which it did. Now by putting the ampersand, it allows me to change the numbers. If I didn't do this, I would have something get one number, then get two numbers. So again, that's a way for me to show you how you can change things in here. So let's go back down here and get two numbers, and we'll just call it num1 and num2. And we have something that's, oh, I see what the issue is. Okay. This should be before the integer name. And let's make sure it disappears. So now we're good. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to copy this here, and we don't need this num1 and num2 right now, and we don't need sum. We don't need any of these because they're being passed in here. So we're going to take process selection, wherever our switch statement is in here, and we're going to use this to get our numbers. So we need to what do you call it when you subtract two numbers? Not the quotient, the sum. Oh, difference. All right. So we need a variable called difference. And let's just create it up here. Let's see where we want to put it. So now we need a function called process subtraction. So we have process add. So let's go and create one called process subtraction. Did I copy this? And let's take it one step at a time.
You forgot a T, Professor, before the R.
I'm sorry, I forgot what?
A T, the letter. You misspelled
Oh, I did. You're right.
but you don't get mistake.
And there is my proof about how terrible a speller I am.
I'm the same way.
All right, so we need to create so we created our variable called difference. So we're just going to do difference equals process subtraction. and we don't need to pass anything. So now we're going to use process subtraction to get the numbers here. And so we're going to do, we need integers. And we'll call that number 1. And number 2. And now we're going to get two numbers. So what we'll do here is get two numbers, and we're going to pass number 1 and number 2. And then we're going to print them out. See out. I'm just going to do number 1. And number 2. For right now. Just to test it, to make sure that we're doing it. So we're calling process subtraction. We're declaring two numbers here. This is going to use get two numbers and get the first one and the second one. Now, why are we doing this? Because guess what? Now we don't need this anymore. Now we don't need, when we do division and multiplication, we can just keep calling this and getting our numbers in here and not have to rewrite the same code over and over and over again. So we have get two numbers in here, and let's see, get two numbers. So we're going to print that, and then I'll do a pause, system pause. And I know it's going to print on the same line, so let me do end line. Alright, so now we just did the one thing, so let's test it. And see what happens. There are build errors, thank you. Let's see, must return a value, oh yeah. Process, void, get two numbers, integer process in here, so we'll, for right now, we'll just call return 0 for right now. So we're going to do S for subtraction, enter first number 30 and 40. And boom, so we have 30 and 40. So that actually changed the value in here, because when we did this, we're actually passing the address of it in there. So if you remember your memory location, you're actually going in there. Every memory is assigned a location. You're physically changing it. So now we have the process sum, so we can just do process subtraction, and we can do the difference. Equals 0, and the difference will be difference equals, now you have to be careful whether it's num1 minus num2 or num2 minus num1. We'll just do number 1 minus number 2, and we'll get rid of this because we don't need it. And then we'll return difference, assuming I can spell it. So let's go back up to our function call now. And process subtraction, and then we'll do C out difference is okay, I know I can do this. So let's go and run it, and then we'll do just multiplication, because division is going to be basically the same thing. So let's try it again, and let's do 10 and 5. So our answer, let's do 10 and 7. So our answer should be 3. And guess we didn't do it. Press any key to continue. All right, so something's not working. So let's see what we did wrong. Difference here, difference is process subtraction. Process subtraction, difference equals number 1, return difference. Okay, so we have an issue that something's not working. So difference equals 0, difference return. So let's be on the safe side here. We'll put a C out here. And we'll just do difference. And see if we're at least calculating it right. It's always, when you do these things, it's always the silliest things that in here. So let's go and see what happens. So let's do 10 and 5. All right, so the difference is 5, but it's not printing it. So there's something, maybe I put the break in the wrong spot. So let's see why, because it's not even printing. Okay, difference, C out. So it's not even printing this. So there we have troubleshooting 101 at us. It's not printing. So process subtraction. So it is actually processing it. So processing, we're getting 2 numbers. We're counting in here. We know that the difference is in there. And it, you know what? Idiot me. Here we go. Welcome to Idiot 101. Here's what our problem is. We saw the system pause, and I took it as it never printing. So let's try that one more time, and let's comment this out. So don't get frustrated when that happens to you. Know what to look for. So let's try this one more time. So we'll do 10 and 5, and let's do 10 and 7. 10 and 5 didn't work out so good for us. Okay, difference is 3. So that works. So now we're going to do one more. We're going to do process multiplication so you can see the advantage of what we did. So let's create process multiplication. Now we're using all integers just to make it easier for right now. And we'll just call it mul. And we want to do the same thing with it as we did before. Go down, put it under add. So this is going to be basically the same thing that we have here. So we need 2 integers and a not difference, but we need a whatever we call it. I can't think of the term for when you multiply two numbers together, what you get. So we have this here. So now we'll do multiply.
I think it's called a product.
Product. There you go. Thank you. It actually hit me about a billionth of a second before you did it. And what made me remember was quotient. And then I said, oh, it's product. Thank you very much. Extra credit for you.
Awesome. I need it.
Now, be aware of the limitations of integers and their size. So we're going to keep it small, but you may get an issue if you just use a plain integer and the variables are two large numbers. So right now, let's just keep it simple. We may get a warning message from the compiler. That's okay. So let's go, and we need to do process multiplication. So we'll do product, and we have to declare it equals process All right, so I must have spelled, oh, I did spell. And we need to declare product. All right, so now, let's do something even sneaky to see if it works. And I don't want you to do it, but I do want to show you the capabilities of it. You could do cout and process multiplication in here. But I don't want you guys doing any calculations in there. In other words, I could do cout process multiplication there. But the issue I would get, this would return an integer and it would print it, but it's really, that's not good programming. So I don't even want to go through that. Maybe we'll do that at a later date. So I know you're going to do it as soon as we end class tonight, Carlos. I know that. I know that for a fact, but that's okay. See, you're a lot like me.
No, because you're saying things like don't.
Yeah, that's like telling a kid, don't have any of those cookies sitting there.
I'm just gonna keep it like I said at the beginning. Just process your stuff outside of your your return stuff. So
but the thing is, I want you guys to do stuff like this. After you get something right, start playing with it. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. All right. So we have this here. So we're gonna do multiplication. See what happens. And the first number. So we'll do 10 and 20. So we should get 300. And, 200. So the product is 200. Boom. So we're good. So everything's working. So I'm not going to do the division in there. Let me make that little cosmetic thing here. All right. So we don't need to do the D because that's going to be basically the same thing. But notice how we're using the same code over and over and over again. So if we wanted to do an unlimited number of, if you're not confused now, this is going to get you now. If you wanted to do an unlimited number of numbers to add, notice this one only gets two numbers. Or let's go to process subtraction. it gets 2 numbers. Well, what we could do is we could put it in a while loop and get numbers in there and put it in an array, but that's for another time to do that. So let's go over what we did so far. And these are the function prototypes. Now, when you go and do the function here, you're going to comment and go, the purpose of this function is to get a value in the range of blah, blah, in there. So you put a 1 or 2 lines in there just describing what you're going to do. As far as commenting, you have to kind of use a little bit of judgment in here. So to me, if you have to comment, we're getting input selection, we're converting it to uppercase, that's okay if you want to do that. But some comments are so obvious it doesn't make any sense. But here, you'd want to comment maybe the do loop and say in here for the while, in here we want to need data is determined by blah, 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 and things of that nature. So what we did, we started off in here declaring some variables. We have our function prototypes over here. Then we're using a function that does nothing but print the menu in here. So let's do this for the heck of it. For integer I equals 1, I less than or equal to 5, and then I plus plus. So what this means is let's do this all these times. Oops. And we'll put print menu in here. So now it's going to print the menu 5 times, and then it's going to print it again for this. So you can see the advantage of having a function that does this. So you don't have to write the code, and then how many different places can you use this code and not have to worry about if you make one change, you have to go back and change a bunch of stuff. So let's go and run it. And notice that it prints it that many times. So that was basically a wasted for loop, but it did show you what you can do and what the purpose of having functions are. So now we're taking a look at our code. Can you imagine if we had all of this information inside of the switch statement? So here we test this and we troubleshoot it. We test this. So we're getting our selection in here from the get selection. We're just setting the variable to true in here. So now we're processing the selection. So if it's A, do this. If it's S, do this. If it's N, do this. If it's D, do this. Or this X. We don't need a default, but I'm going to put one in anyway just to show you a little programming trick, free of charge. And I'm expecting, Carlos, you'll be taking advantage of this. Now, when we're doing the get selection, we're only going to get a valid A, S, M, D in there. So we don't need a default. However, it's good programming to do this. If you get here, then you know you have an issue. You should never ever get here. But I put that in a lot of my code, and if I get there, then I know something is seriously wrong somewhere. So we process A, We process F, we process M. We didn't write any code for D, but it basically the same thing in X. Now we can take this process add, and let's go down here to process add, and let's get rid of this, enter first number, enter blah, 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 and let's just do the get two numbers. And we may have to change the variable names. And let's get rid of this, just to be on the safe side. And then delete. I never delete anything till I know it's working. So now we're going to get to two numbers. We don't need this anymore. We're summing the numbers. We don't really need this function. I just wanted to show you how to call function from within a function. But really, you could do sum equals sum numbers 1. But I wanted to show you how to pass values in here. So let's do the addition and see if it still works. Or do we bring it to its knees? Okay, enter first number. And we'll do 16. And we'll do 34. So we should get 50. And 16, sum is 50. So we're good. So everything works good here. Now, I don't want to go over it tonight, but there is a thing that allows you to do function overloading. And there's a million different ways to do something. So what I want you guys to do tonight, let me pause the video.